The breaking point. Earth had always been the outsider in the Galactic Confederation. Humans were newcomers, having achieved faster-than-light travel barely a century ago, while other species had been traversing the stars for millennia. They called us aggressive, unpredictable, and primitive. Behind closed doors, they called us worse. But they tolerated us as long as we followed their rules, accepted their guidance, and provided them with our resources. For 70 years, Earth played the game. We joined their committees, paid their tariffs, and adjusted our laws to match their civilized standards. We even let their corporations establish operations on Mars and Europa, mining helium-3 and water ice that they claimed was for mutual benefit. In exchange, we received limited access to their technology and were allowed to establish small colonies on 3 habitable worlds within 50 light-years of Sol. Commander Maya Reyes knew all this history as she stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, watching the massive Confederation diplomatic vessel approach Earth's orbital space. As head of Earth's defense grid, she had been ordered to provide an honor escort for High Arbiter Tenka, who was arriving for what the Confederation called a routine inspection of Earth's compliance with technological development treaties. Maintain formation, Maya ordered, her voice steady despite the unease in her gut. Ambassador Chen wants this to go perfectly. Lieutenant Koji nodded at his station. Yes, Commander. The diplomatic corps is already in the lunar receiving station. All protocols are being observed. Maya's eyes narrowed as the Confederation vessel, named the Righteous Mandate, slowed its approach. Something about its trajectory seemed off. It was coming in at a steeper angle than protocol dictated, and its communication signals were fluctuating in an unusual pattern. Lieutenant, are you picking up anything strange from the Righteous Mandate? She asked. Koji frowned at his console. There's some unusual energy readings, Commander. They might be scanning. Wait, that's not right. They're activating something. High-energy systems coming online. Maya's military instincts screamed danger. Immediate alert. All ships, defensive positions. Luna Station. This is Commander Reyes. We have potentially hostile activity from the Confederation vessel. Commander. Ambassador Chen's voice cracked over the comms. You will stand down immediately. This is a diplomatic mission, and you are jeopardizing decades of careful relationship building. Ambassador, they're powering weapons systems. Maya responded tersely. Impossible, Chen sputtered. The Confederation would never. His voice cut off as a blinding beam erupted from the Righteous Mandate, striking Luna Station with devastating precision. The diplomatic reception center, along with 217 humans and 32 Confederation representatives, vanished in a flash of superheated plasma. All ships, return fire. Maya shouted, bile rising in her throat. Defense grid online. The next 30 minutes were chaos. Earth's fleet, though advanced by human standards, was hopelessly outmatched by Confederation technology. The Righteous Mandate continued its attack, methodically targeting Earth's orbital infrastructure. Communication satellites, defense platforms, and civilian stations. When Maya's own ship took a direct hit to its propulsion system, she knew they couldn't win this fight conventionally. All vessels, initiate Protocol Omega, she ordered, her voice hollow. Protocol Omega was a last resort measure that no one had ever expected to use. Ramming attacks. 5 human ships, their crews having evacuated to escape pods, accelerated on collision courses with the Confederation vessel. 3 were destroyed before impact. 1 glanced off the vessel's shields, but the 5th, the UES as Defiant, struck the Righteous Mandate's primary weapon array, causing a catastrophic cascade failure that disabled the attacking ship. As Maya watched from her crippled vessel, a transmission came through from the Confederation ship. High Arbiter Tenka's face filled the screen, his 4 eyes blinking in what Maya had learned was a sign of extreme displeasure. You have committed an act of war against the Galactic Confederation, the alien diplomat stated flatly. This unprovoked attack confirms what many species have long believed. Humans are too dangerous to be allowed free development. Unprovoked, Maya snarled, her composure finally breaking. You just destroyed Luna Station with our diplomatic corps, and your own representatives inside. A regrettable necessity, Tenko replied coldly. Your species was developing artificial intelligence in violation of Treaty Article 437. The diplomatic mission was compromised. All witnesses have been silenced. Maya's blood ran cold. You murdered hundreds to cover up what? That we've been researching machine learning. That's not even banned under the treaty. The Confederation has determined that Earth has exceeded its technological development quota. Sanctions will now be imposed. All interstellar travel to and from Sol system is forbidden. All human colonies are hereby placed under Confederation administration. Earth will be quarantined until the Confederation determines that humanity has been sufficiently re-educated. The transmission cut off abruptly. Maya stared at the blank screen, her mind racing. The Confederation had just effectively imprisoned an entire species in its home system, and they had murdered their own representatives to justify it. 12 hours later, as rescue operations continued around Earth's orbit, Maya sat in an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. Reports were flooding in from human colonies and outposts across Confederation space. Human ships were being seized. Human settlers were being relocated to internment facilities. Earth's ambassadors on the Confederation's central world of Meridian had been arrested on charges of espionage. They planned this, General Harris said grimly, displaying tactical data on the main screen. They'd been positioning ships near all our colonies for months. This wasn't a spontaneous reaction. This was premeditated. Ambassador Chen, who had been off station when Luna was hit, looked shell-shocked. But why? We've been compliant with all their regulations. The AI research was basic, nothing that would threaten them. Dr. Eliza Sharma, Earth's leading psychologist, spoke up. It's not about the AI. It's about control and fear. Several Confederation species have been watching our development with alarm. We've accomplished in a century what took them millennia. They're afraid of our potential. Maya listened silently, her mind already shifting from defense to resistance. The Confederation had revealed its true face, and now humanity needed to act. We need to form a resistance, she finally said, interrupting a debate about diplomatic appeals. Not just a military one, though we'll need that too, but a network across all human settlements. The Confederation thinks they can isolate and control us. Then we need to show them what humans do when cornered. General Harris nodded slowly. Commander Rice is right. Diplomatic channels have been severed. The Confederation isn't interested in negotiation. They want submission. What you're suggesting is suicide, Chen protested. We can't fight the entire Confederation. They have technology centuries beyond ours, fleets that could reduce Earth to ash. If they wanted to destroy us, they would have already, Maya countered. They want to control us, use us. That's our advantage. And I think we'll find we're not entirely without allies. There are species in the Confederation who have been chafing under their rule for centuries. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the Council voted to authorize the formation of what they called the Terran Liberation Force, TLF. Maya was appointed its commander, with a mandate to establish resistance cells throughout human space and seek allies among dissatisfied Confederation members. Over the next 6 months, Earth endured the Confederation's quarantine. Food shipments to colonies were cut off. Medical supplies became scarce. Communication with off-world settlements was heavily censored. But beneath this new harsh reality, the TLF was growing. Using old encryption methods that the technologically advanced Confederation considered obsolete, Maya established contact with human settlements across Confederation space. They began gathering intelligence, identifying sympathetic aliens, and quietly stockpiling resources. They discovered that the Xendi, a species from a heavy-gravity world who had been second-class citizens in the Confederation for generations, were particularly receptive to human overtures. Maya's most significant breakthrough came when a Xendi engineer named Korvax provided schematics for Confederation shield technology. "My people have suffered under their dominance for too long," the alien had said through an encrypted channel. "Perhaps humans have the fire that we have lost." With these schematics, Earth engineers were able to develop targeted EMP weapons that could penetrate Confederation defenses. They called them Perseus Spears, after the mythological hero who slew monsters with divine weapons. The first test of the Perseus Spears came 8 months after the quarantine began. A Confederation patrol fleet had established a blockade around Europa, cutting off the human research station there from vital supplies. Intelligence suggested they were planning to seize the station and its valuable research into quantum computing. Maya led the mission herself, commanding a strike team in 3 small, retrofitted shuttles that the Confederation sensors dismissed as debris. Using the void of Europa's darkened far side as cover, they approached the blockade formation silently. "All ships, prepare Perseus deployment," Maya ordered softly. "Target their command vessels' shield generators first, then communications." The Perseus Spears launched with barely a whisper. To Confederation sensors, they would appear as minor space debris until it was too late. The first spear struck the command vessel precisely where Korvax had indicated the shield generators would be. The second hit its communication array. In seconds, the massive ship was dead in space. The remaining Confederation vessels, suddenly without leadership or coordination, scattered in confusion. Maya's team quickly disabled 2 more ships before the others retreated to a safe distance. "Europa Station. This is Commander Reyes," Maya transmitted. "We have supplies and evacuation vessels. The TLF is getting you out." As they evacuated the station's personnel and research data, Maya received an urgent message from Earth. General Harris's face appeared on her screen, his expression grave. "Maya, we've intercepted Confederation transmissions. This goes deeper than we thought. The quarantine, the seizure of colonies, it's all a prelude. They're building something called a Purity Arch in the TOF CD system. From what we can gather, it's a device capable of generating a targeted gravity wave that could compress Earth's core to the point of collapse." Maya felt her blood run cold. They're planning to destroy Earth. Not immediately. It's leverage, their ultimate threat to ensure our compliance. But the capability will be there, ready to activate if humanity doesn't learn its place. Maya stared at the stars visible through the shuttle viewport. The Confederation hadn't just declared war on humanity's freedom. They were preparing for genocide if humans refused to kneel. "Send me everything you have on this Purity Arch," she said, her resolve hardening. "And contact all TLS cells. If the Confederation wants to threaten our homeworld, then we're going to show them what humanity does when its very existence is at stake." As her shuttle accelerated back toward Earth, Maya knew that the real war was just beginning. The Confederation had crossed a line from which there was no return. They didn't just want to control humanity. They wanted the power to erase it. That was a mistake they would soon regret. Because if there was one thing humans had learned through their long, bloody history, it was how to fight for survival against impossible odds. And now, with the fate of their species at stake, they would show the galaxy why humanity had survived every catastrophe its harsh homeworld had ever thrown at it. The breaking point had been reached, and humanity's rage was about to be unleashed across the stars. The reckoning. The Confederation's response to humanity's first successful strikes was swift and merciless. They weren't just targeting military installations anymore. They were making examples. New Horizon, humanity's largest off-world colony with a population of nearly 3 million, was the first to feel their wrath. The Confederation fleet arrived without warning, bypassing the colony's minimal defenses with contemptuous ease. They didn't bombard the surface as expected. Instead, they deployed a weapon that human scientists had never encountered before, a cascading nanite swarm that systematically dismantled infrastructure at the molecular level. Within hours, New Horizons cities were reduced to dust. The colonists themselves were spared, but left without shelter, power, or means to sustain themselves on a world that was still being terraformed. Confederation broadcasts across human space carried the same message. This is mercy. Compliance will be rewarded. Resistance will be met with extinction. When the news reached Earth, Maya Reyes stood before the United Earth Council, her face a mask of controlled fury. "They think this will break us," she said quietly. "That we'll surrender rather than risk more suffering. They fundamentally misunderstand what humanity is." "And what are we, Commander?" Council member Ojukwu asked, his voice heavy with the weight of 3 million suddenly desperate colonists. Maya's eyes met his. "We are the species that has faced extinction a dozen times on our own world and survived. We are the people who crawled from the ashes of world wars, pandemics, and climate collapse to reach the stars. And we are now the ones who will teach the Confederation that threatening our existence was their gravest mistake." The Council unanimously approved her proposal, Operation Prometheus, a daring plan to strike at the heart of the Confederation's power while building a coalition of oppressed species to challenge their dominance. Over the next 3 months, TLS cells executed coordinated strikes across Confederation space. They weren't just military targets. They were carefully chosen to expose the Confederation's vulnerabilities and cruelties to its own member species. On Meridian, the Confederation's capital world, human operatives infiltrated the Central Archives and released classified records showing how the ruling species had systematically exploited and suppressed technological development in lesser civilizations for millennia. On trading hubs throughout the galaxy, TLF hackers broke into financial networks, revealing how wealth flowed from resource-rich worlds to the coffers of the Confederation elite. Each operation was accompanied by a simple message: the Confederation doesn't protect you. It owns you. Humanity resists not just for ourselves, but for all who suffer under their dominion. The message resonated more widely than Maya had dared hope. The Xendi were the first to openly join the human resistance, followed by the avian Threll and the enigmatic Novan. Even among the Confederation's privileged species, dissent began to grow as their own populations questioned the narratives they had been fed. But the Confederation still held overwhelming military power, and they were bringing it to bear with increasing brutality. Earth's defenses were stretched thin, and intelligence confirmed that the Purity Arch, the weapon capable of destroying humanity's homeworld, was nearing completion in the Ta City system. Maya knew they needed a decisive strike. The intelligence provided by their alien allies had revealed a critical weakness in the Confederation's command structure. The ruling Council of Arbiters, including Tenka, would be gathering at the Purity Arch for its activation ceremony, a rare occasion when the usually dispersed leadership would be in one location. "It's a trap," General Harris warned during their strategy session. "They know we've learned about the Arch. They're expecting us to attack." "Of course they are," Maya agreed. "But they're expecting a direct assault, a desperate attempt to destroy the weapon before it can be used against Earth. They're not expecting what we're actually planning." What Maya had proposed was audacious to the point of insanity. While a diversionary force would engage the Confederation fleet guarding the Purity Arch, a small infiltration team would slit through the chaos to capture, not kill, the Council of Arbiters. "Killing them would just create martyrs," Maya explained. "But exposing them, forcing them to answer for their crimes before a transmission to every species in the galaxy, that could fracture the Confederation from within." The key to the plan was Dr. Eliza Sharma's discovery. Through her research with Xendi and Novan allies, she had uncovered a neurological peculiarity common to the Confederation's ruling species. Their brains were incapable of processing certain types of deception. They could lie by omission, but not by direct falsehood, a trait they had carefully concealed from lesser species. "It's why they've maintained power for so long," Dr. Sharma explained. "Their species evolved with this limitation and developed intricate social protocols to work around it. When forced into a direct question, they either speak truth or fall into a neurological shutdown. They've structured their entire legal and diplomatic system to avoid such situations." Armed with this knowledge and a series of carefully crafted questions, Maya believed they could force the Arbiters to reveal the Confederation's true agenda before the galaxy. The day of the operation, Maya stood on the bridge of the UESS Defiance, a new vessel named in honor of the ship that had sacrificed itself in humanity's first engagement with the Confederation. Around her were not just humans but representatives from 7 species that had joined their cause. "All ships, prepare for jump," she ordered. "Remember your training and remember why we fight. Not just for Earth, but for all who deserve freedom among the stars." The battle at Tau Ceti unfolded exactly as Maya had predicted. The Confederation forces were overwhelming in number and firepower, but they were focused on the obvious threat: the mixed species fleet challenging their defensive perimeter. They never detected the small stealth craft that slipped through the chaos, carrying Maya and her infiltration team directly to the station housing the Purity Arch. Using technology provided by their Novan allies, who had evolved natural stealth abilities that informed their cloaking designs, Maya's team infiltrated the station during the height of the battle. They made their way through the sprawling complex, encountering surprisingly little resistance. The Confederation's arrogance had led them to concentrate their forces on external threats, never imagining that anyone would dare breach the station itself. When they reached the central chamber where the Arbiters were gathered, Maya paused. Through the doorway, she could see the Purity Arch itself, a massive ring of dark metal suspended above what appeared to be a holographic representation of Earth. 12 Arbiters stood around it, including Tenka, their 4-armed forms draped in ceremonial robes. "Activate the neural disruptors," Maya whispered. The devices, developed from Dr. Sharma's research, emitted a frequency that specifically targeted the neurological patterns of the Arbiter species. It wouldn't harm them, but it would temporarily disable their carefully constructed mental defenses against direct questioning. The team moved swiftly, securing the chamber before the Arbiters could recover from the disorientation caused by the disruptors. Maya approached Tsenka, who stared at her with all 4 eyes widened in shock. "You cannot be here," the Arbiter said, his voice lacking its usual commanding tone. "This is impossible." "Yet here we are," Maya replied calmly. She gestured to one of her team members, who had set up a broadcasting system. "And now you're going to answer some questions for the galaxy." Corvex, their Xendi ally, confirmed that the broadcast was being transmitted across all Confederation frequencies, hijacking their own communication network to reach every world, every ship, every outpost. Maya took a deep breath and faced the highest authority in known space. "High Arbiter Tenka, is the Confederation's quarantine of Earth truly about illegal AI development?" The Arbiter's mouth contorted as he fought against the neurological compulsion to answer truthfully. "No," he finally spat. "It is about containment of a dangerous evolutionary path." "Dangerous how?" "Human neural patterns. Human creativity. It develops too quickly. Your species adapts and innovates at a rate that threatens the balance we have maintained for millennia." Maya nodded. "And the Purity Arch, is its purpose to destroy Earth if humans refuse to accept Confederation control?" "Yes," Senkai hissed. "It is our insurance against your species' unpredictability." "Has the Confederation built such weapons for other worlds?" 7 others. For species that showed similar potential for disruption. Maya continued her questioning, forcing the Arbiters to reveal the full extent of the Confederation's manipulations, how they had deliberately stunted the technological development of dozens of species, how they had engineered conflicts between potential rivals, how they had built their interstellar empire not on cooperation, but on calculated suppression. As the truth poured out across the galaxy, reports began flooding in from Maya's tactical team. Confederation ships were standing down. Protests were erupting on core worlds. Subject species were declaring independence. The empire that had stood for millennia was unraveling in real time. "You've doomed us all," Senke said when Maya finally stopped her questioning. "The Confederation maintained order. Without it, the galaxy will descend into chaos." Maya looked at the Arbiter with something approaching pity. Perhaps, or perhaps it will evolve into something better. Something based on genuine cooperation rather than control. Either way, your time of unchallenged authority is over. With the arbiters secured and the Purity Arch deactivated, Maya's team prepared to withdraw. The battle outside had largely ceased as Confederation forces received the broadcast and confusion spread through their ranks. Many ships had simply departed, their captains unwilling to continue fighting for a cause suddenly revealed as corrupt. As Maya's team made their way back to their extraction point, Corvex approached her. "What happens now, Commander Reyes? The Confederation as we knew it is finished, but something must replace it." Maya had been pondering this question for months. We don't replace one empire with another. That's the old way of thinking. We build something new, a true alliance of equals. Each species governs itself, but we cooperate on matters that affect us all. The Xendi nodded slowly. An alliance where advancement is shared, not controlled. Where diversity of thought is valued, not feared. Exactly, Maya said. The humans have a saying, e pluribus unum. Out of many, one. That's the future I see. Not uniform, but united. Not controlled, but cooperative. 3 months later, representatives from 27 species gathered on a neutral world to sign the Stellar Concordat, a new framework for interstellar relations based on principles of sovereignty, cooperation, and shared advancement. The former Confederation core worlds, their influence diminished but not eliminated, sent observers rather than signatories. Maya Reyes, now appointed Earth's first ambassador to the Concordat, stood before the assembled delegates. "We gather here not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals," she began. "Each of us brings unique perspectives, unique strengths, and unique histories. Our differences are not threats to be controlled but assets to be celebrated." She paused, looking across the chamber at faces so diverse that ancient humans would have considered them gods or monsters. But to her, they were simply people. People who had suffered under the same oppression, who had fought for the same freedom, who now shared the same hopes. "Humanity's history is written in blood and fire," she continued. "We have made terrible mistakes on our journey to the stars, but we have also learned from them. We have learned that true strength comes not from dominance, but from diversity. Not from control, but from cooperation." She gestured to the document before them, its text rendered in multiple languages and formats to accommodate the sensory systems of all signatories. "This Concordat is not an end but a beginning. It does not solve all our differences or address all our needs, but it creates a foundation upon which we can build together, as equals under the same stars." As the signing ceremony proceeded, Maya found herself standing next to Corvex, who had become both ally and friend throughout their struggle. "Your species accomplished in 1 year what mine could not in 1,000, the Xendi said quietly. "You humans are remarkable." Maya shook her head. "We're just stubborn, and we've had a lot of practice at fighting against the odds." "There is more to it than that," Corvex insisted. "When the Confederation threatened your world, you could have negotiated, surrendered, secured Earth's safety at the expense of your colonies or your freedom. Many species would have, but you chose to fight not just for yourselves, but for others. That is uncommon." Maya considered this. Perhaps there was something unique about humanity's path, forged in the crucible of a particularly harsh evolutionary history, shaped by countless near extinctions, tempered by self-inflicted catastrophes they had somehow survived. "Maybe what makes humans dangerous is also what makes us valuable," she finally replied. "We don't accept limitations easily. We question. We challenge. We reimagine. The Confederation saw that as a threat. I hope the Concordat will see it as a strength." As the ceremony concluded and the new alliance became official, Maya looked out at the stars visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its silent journey around its yellow star, unaware that its children had just helped reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. The path ahead would not be easy. The former Confederation species would need to adjust to a new reality where they were equals, not superiors. Centuries of exploitation and resentment would not be healed overnight. And beyond the known regions of space, other challenges undoubtedly waited. But for the first time since humanity had reached the stars, they would face those challenges not as isolated newcomers or subjugated vassals, but as respected members of a true interstellar community, their potential no longer feared but finally embraced. And if new threats emerged, if new tyrants rose to power, they would learn what the Confederation had learned at such cost: that humanity, when pushed to its breaking point, was capable of not just surviving, but of changing the very rules of the game. Because that, after all, was what humans had always done best.